The European Parliament, where the fate of our continent is decided. Everyone knows its political image, but how does it work from the inside? That rarely gets into the news. Now the time has come to see what's inside the machine. To take a look inside, we have traveled to Strasbourg in France. There is a certain irony to the fact that the center of a contemporary unified Europe is in Strasbourg, because this region has been the source of countless conflicts between the two heavyweights of the same Europe, Germany and France. To be honest, there are differences of opinion as to where the real capital of Europe can be found. Ask a Frenchman, he'll say Strasbourg. Ask a Belgian, she will say Brussels. Europe's legislators spend most of their time in Brussels anyway. That's where the European Commission is located.
All right.
But once every month, the entire European Parliament moves to Strasbourg for 4 days for its plenary session, where all important votes take place. All 750 members of the European Parliament and a couple of thousand Parliament staff are involved in this monthly rotation between Brussels and Strasbourg. One has to say that there are many critics of this nomadic movement by all these Eurocrats that costs millions of euro each year. Specifically, almost 115 million euro per year, according to the European Court of Auditors. Even transporting documents is a costly and complicated process. Every month, 2,500 plastic containers like this are moved from Brussels to Strasbourg on 5 trucks. One has to say that a large part of the Euro-parliamentarians, never mind European taxpayers who pay for all this, are tired of these monthly journeys. However, on the issue of where it can make its home, the European Parliament is not its own master. It is an official European Parliament decision taken by a vote that the Parliament should have the right to determine for itself where it meets. But there's the tricky part. The European Union Treaty clearly says that this has to be decided by all member countries unanimously, and France, as a member country, is against it. The European Parliament in Strasbourg is an enormous 220,000 square meter 3-building complex. All we have seen on our TV screens are the glass facade and the huge plenary meeting hall. However, the real work here takes place in narrow offices. One has to say that those who designed this huge complex didn't suffer from practicality or simplicity. To find an office here is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Hidden well in a labyrinth of hallways are 1,133 offices and 19 different-sized halls. My doubts that I might have no sense of direction and place were dispelled by the fact that not even employees of the European Parliament know where some remote office is located.
Do you have any idea where the room number T1109 is?
Tea? It's all you have, just tea that I never heard.
Tea?
Not a clue, mate. We know nothing. We're lost ourselves.
No idea.
The heart of the Parliament, the huge plenary session hall, hidden under a giant cupola, is about the only thing here that can be easily found. Debates take place constantly, but it is a surprise that the hall is rather empty, like a classroom during a boring lecture. One gets the feeling that many are cutting class from the plenary session. Modern technologies are well developed at the European Parliament. All plenary sessions can be seen on the internet. That means you don't have to be in the plenary hall to see what's going on. Everyone knows the pop singer Usher, but at the European Parliament, the ushers know everyone.
I heard that every usher knows every MEP in the plenary session. Is it true?
In principle, yes.
The usher sees to it that there is order in the plenary session hall, and he has to know the faces of 750 deputies, so that at any moment he can bring them coffee or an important document to sign. What goes on in the Parliament often reminds one of the Tower of Babel, because debates take place in 20 different languages. For this, you need some earphones.
Pētījums secināja, ka miljardiem ir iespējams ietaupīt.
It is the interpreters who watch events in the plenary hall from above and struggle to see to it that debaters from 28 countries understand each other. There are 350 staff interpreters at the European Parliament who are joined by about 400 freelance interpreters when there is a rush hour. When working as an interpreter, you have to divide your attention between listening and speaking at the same time. Not everyone can do this. In addition, there are some peculiarities to working as an interpreter here. Everyone has to know the specific Eurocrat jargon. There is a whole terminology that doesn't exist outside the walls of Strasbourg or Brussels. However, interpreters have to know all current events. We prepare for that. Before I started working as an interpreter, I never paid so much attention to watching the news as I do now getting up in the morning. Another inseparable part of the life of the Parliament are various protest actions, both in support of or against some issue. People waving placards and handing out leaflets are part of the everyday life of this institution. There is always someone loudly trying to be heard, and it is no surprise. The European Parliament represents the second largest group of democratic voters in the world, after India. So the corridors of power here are indeed long and complex, even literally.